Okay, this is install of the tactical trigger. Okay, so first thing you're going to do, lock your slide back, make sure you got no ammo. Make sure there's no ammo present. Okay, then you're going to go ahead and take the slide down just like you normally would. You're going to take and push this pin out. Okay. Then this one's a little bit more tricky. You're going to grab the slide stop, kind of rock it back and forth, and then push that out. Pull the slide stop out with it. Going to take the locking block, put your tool underneath there, pull the locking block out. Then you're going to push the trigger housing pin through. Okay, then you just pull the trigger out. Then here's your kit. It comes with your trigger, your reduced powered spring. You're going to pull your trigger out, and we'll grab the spring and the Allen key for adjustment. Go ahead and set those down. We'll take the trigger assembly. It's got a something to retain it all together. Pull that out. Okay, then just drop your trigger in. Then go ahead and take your locking block again, put that back in. Then take this pin, your trigger pin, put that through partially. Take your top pin, push that through, seat that all the way, center it up. Okay, you want to do that one first so that this spring on your trigger, on your slide stop, it gets underneath it. Okay, so you push that in, push your trigger pin through until it kind of clicks, center it up. Yep, there we go. Now that's seated. Okay, take your rear pin, push that through, seat that into the center. Okay, and that's basically the assembled trigger now. So first thing, you're gonna go ahead, rack that, make sure that and now that we're onto the safety check, so make sure that the trigger is pushed out so it's resting on the trigger safety. I'm going to push that without engaging the trigger safety, make sure that does not slip. If it did, it would not be drop safe or firing pin safe. Okay, now I'm going to check for function. Okay, so that function fine. I'm going to do the next safety check. I'm going to pull the trigger forward so it's resting on the safety. I'm going to check right here in this region to make sure that it does not drop in any way that it would result in letting go of the firing pin. And so that passed just fine. Okay, next check and assembly step is to go ahead and break down your upper. So I'm going to remove the back plate. I'm going to pull out my striker, pull out my spring, pull out the extractor, drop the safety plunger, and there's the OEM spring. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to grab my reduced power firing pin spring from my kit, put that on, install this into the slide. Looks like I got my spring popped out. See my spring a little bit better. Okay, put my extractor back in, put my firing pin back in the slide, put the spring goes back. Then I'm going to take my back plate, going to push down on that, and then I'm going to take my tool, push down on this spring here. Okay, now that's fully assembled and it's got the reduced powered firing pin spring. So one thing to note is if I try to push the firing pin forward, it won't go unless I push that in. So if I was holding this in, you can hear that rattle, and if I let it go, it won't rattle. So that's part of a reliability check here in a second. So I'm going to check to make sure that my over travel is adjusted acceptably. So I'm going to push down there and it looks like it's doing pretty good. So that's pretty much all that I need to do. If I needed to adjust the over travel, then I would go ahead, pull the slide, and I would adjust the over travel here. So it didn't have any firing pin interference, so I'm going to do a quarter turn that way, clockwise, to reduce the over travel. And let's see, so I'll push down here, and it hesitated just slightly. So now I know that I'm kind of at the limit, so I'm going to back that off a little bit and go counterclockwise, just about an eighth to a quarter turn, and try that again. And it breaks just fine. So that's completely set up. Now I'm just going to check to make sure it rattles. Okay, so that firing pin's rattled after I fired. And finally I'm going to check for the firing pin safety. So I'm going to remove the back plate, and I'm going to put my thumb right here on the striker, pull the trigger. Okay, so now it's by there. I'm going to pull the trigger out so it's resting on the safety. Then I'm going to push down, and I cannot, it's just a nice firm wall. I'm going to pull the trigger and it releases. So make sure that holding the trigger forward, that there's no way that you can get that firing pin to move past. So that completely passed all of the safety and functional checks. You got to pull the trigger to get the slide back. Then I'll just replace the back plate one more time, and that is done. Okay, now finally we'll just make sure that everything looks good. So nice smooth take up to the wall, no stacking, break, nice positive reset, break. Okay, so that completes the installation and safety checks.